No team is perfect, and this offseason definitely highlighted that.
It is now official. The Vikings have released Dalvin Cook.
Now that all 32 NFL rosters are practically set, let's dive into every NFL team's biggest mistake of the 2023 NFL offseason. Arizona Cardinals releasing DeAndre Hopkins. This is just typical Arizona Cardinals fashion. Instead of keeping a 5-time Pro Bowl wideout, or instead of trading him for what would have been a nice return, let's just cut him and take on a giant $22.6 million cap hit anyway. Atlanta Falcons signing David Onyemata. The Falcons handed the ex-New Orleans Saints standout a 3-year deal worth $35 million. Now, that is a lot of money for a rotational defensive lineman who hasn't topped 6.5 sacks in a single season. Baltimore Ravens releasing Calais Campbell. Campbell was a productive pass rusher for the Ravens during his 3 seasons, even tallying 5.5 sacks last season in a limited role. If Baltimore had found a serviceable replacement for Campbell, we would have understood the decision to cut him. But no, Campbell and 2022 sacks leader Justin Houston are now both gone. How exactly is this pass rush supposed to improve without Campbell? Buffalo Bills drafting Dalton Kincaid. Buffalo needed a number 2 receiver, another offensive lineman, a new starting linebacker, and more defensive line help. So using their first-round pick on tight end, Dalton Kincaid was something. You know, when they already have a Pro Bowler there in Dawson Knox. The Bills are in win-now mode, so why draft a player who probably won't make an immediate impact? Carolina Panthers giving Hayden Hurst $21.75 million. This was also something. The Panthers spent a lot of money on offense in free agency, but giving veteran tight end Hayden Hurst a 3-year deal worth $21.75 million was a true head-scratcher. This is a player who has surpassed 500 yards receiving once in 5 NFL seasons. He has just 14 career TD receptions in 70 games. Chicago Bears failing to add pass rushing depth. The Bears spent big money on linebackers Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, and edge rusher DeMarcus Walker in the early stages of free agency. However, they waited until August to finally add a traditional pass rusher specialist in Yannick Ngakoue. What Chicago needed was a pure full-time pass rushing specialist to help their D, and the front office failed to achieve that goal. Cincinnati Bengals not extending Joe Burrow. The Bengals should have asked Burrow to fill out a blank check and then be on their merry way. But no, ownership has waited around way too long, all the while watching Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert sign extensions worth well over $250 million apiece. So now instead of maybe getting Burrow on a team-friendly deal, the Bengals better be ready to pay him well more than what those 3 QBs signed for. Cleveland Browns trading for Elijah Moore. The Browns acquired the disgruntled New York Jets wideout and the number 74 selection in exchange for the number 42 pick. Interesting call to trade down 32 spots in a receiver-heavy draft for a guy who has 80 catches for 984 yards and 6 touchdowns through 2 seasons. What if the Browns just signed Deshaun Watson's old buddy and DeAndre Hopkins instead of giving up a valuable draft pick? That would have been a much better move for a team in win-now mode. Dallas Cowboys drafting Motzie Smith, with Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dante Fowler Jr., Leighton Vander Esch, and Dorrance Armstrong Jr. rounding out a loaded front 7. The Cowboys did not need extra D-line help. Yet curiously, Jerry Jones reached for Michigan defensive tackle Motzie Smith in the number 26 spot. Dallas could have used another offensive lineman, receiver, or tight end in that spot, but sure. Motzie it is. Denver Broncos giving Mike McGlinchey $87.5 million. The Broncos allowed a league-high 63 sacks last season, so we get that they were desperate to fix up the O-line here. But giving ex-49ers offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey $87.5 million over 5 years is quite the eyebrow-raising of a move. McGlinchey is a beast in the run-blocking game, but his pass protection skills are leaky at best. Per Pro Football Focus, he's allowed 13 total sacks over the last 3 years. Not sure how that sort of production helps Russell Wilson in pass blocking. Detroit Lions drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. The Lions handed former 1K rusher David Montgomery a fair 3-year deal worth $18 million. Despite needs at other positions, they went way off the board and used the number 12 selection on Alabama running back Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm sorry, but when do you need 2 good RBs again? Green Bay Packers trading Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, sorry, but it still doesn't make sense to trade away a 4-time MVP and future Hall of Famer with plenty of good football left in him. Not to mention that that the Pack didn't exactly get the type of return that, say, Seattle got from Denver for Russell Wilson. Jordan Love better be the real deal, or this could easily go down as the worst QB trade in franchise history. Houston Texans trading Brandon Cooks. Rather than keep a consistent 1,000-yard receiver to help out rookie QB CJ Stroud, the Texans traded the deep threat specialist to Dallas for the low price of a 2023 5th and 2024 6th-round picks. Cook is signed for 2 more years and could have fetched a better return for Houston ahead of this year's deadline, or in the 2024 offseason. Trading a consistently productive veteran for pennies was certainly mind-boggling. Indianapolis Colts selling low on Stephon Gilmore. PFF graded Gilmore as the 5th best cornerback for 2022, which leads us to believe that maybe they shouldn't have traded him to Dallas for the low price of a 5th-round pick. We get it, Gilmore's 33 and entering his contract year. But why not showcase his Pro Bowl level play for a few weeks and trade him for a greater return ahead of the deadline? A 5th-rounder for an elite corner still in his prime is just a poor example of negotiating. Jacksonville Jaguars drafting Brenton Strange. The Jaguars managed to extend Evan Ingram, who put up the 4th most receiving yards among tight ends last season with 766. Throw in Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Travis Etienne Jr., and you see that Trevor Lawrence has more than enough weaponry around him. So it was interesting to see the Jaguars use the number 61 selection on Penn State tight end Brenton Strange, who never topped 362 receiving yards in college. Kansas City Chiefs letting JUJU Smith-Schuster walk. JUJU made the most of his prove-it deal with the Chiefs, hauling in 78 receptions for 933 yards, the most among active KC wideouts. That culminated in a Super Bowl 57 championship. Smith-Schuster then landed a shiny 3-year deal with the Patriots worth $33 million. Now, that is a reasonable deal for a proven WR1, and the Chiefs just didn't do anything to replace the production of this slick slot receiver. So, let's see how that works this year. Las Vegas Raiders signing Jimmy Garoppolo. We sorta understand the Raiders' decision to move on from Derek Carr, but replacing him with an inferior QB and the oft-injured Jimmy Garoppolo on a 3-year deal worth $67.5 million? Yeah, now that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. After releasing Carr, the Raiders should have simply tanked and tried to win the Caleb Williams sweepstakes for next year. Los Angeles Chargers failing to upgrade the run D. The Bolts had the 7th best pass defense in 2022 and the number 28 rushing defense. GM Tom Telesco addressed the run defense by, wait a minute, that's right, he didn't. Los Angeles Rams trading JALEN RAMSEY. It is hard to comprehend the Rams' offseason moves. They didn't tear it all down and rebuild, but they gave away all-pro corner JALEN RAMSEY to Miami in exchange for tight end Hunter Long and a 3rd-round pick. How exactly does this trade help them when they still have Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald again? Miami Dolphins ignoring the TE position. The Dolphins let standout tight end Mike Gesicki walk to free agency, and the rival Patriots picked him up on a 1-year pact. Their other tight end, Hunter Long, was traded to LA in the previously mentioned JALEN RAMSEY move. So Miami's lead tight end on the depth chart is veteran Durham Smythe, who has 809 yards in 5 NFL seasons. Their second tight end is journeyman Tyler Kroft, who has exceeded 200 yards in a season once. Yeah, how are Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle gonna get support in the passing game again? Minnesota Vikings releasing Dalvin Cook. We don't care about saving a little extra cap space. How does a team coming off 13 wins improve without Cook, who, had the 3rd most rushing yards since 2019 with 5,024. 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and many somehow decided that they're better off without Cook. If someone has a logical explanation for this decision to release him, please let us know. New England Patriots letting JAKOBI MEYERS walk. JUJU Smith-Schuster was a good signing for the Pats, but he's also injury-prone and has to prove that he can produce without Patrick Mahomes. So instead of paying JUJU, why didn't the Patriots just extend their top wideout in JAKOBI MEYERS, who joined Vegas on a 3-year deal worth $33 million? The Pats would have been better off just giving the money they handed Smith-Schuster to Myers. New Orleans Saints drafting Isaiah Foskey. The Saints used their 1st-round pick on defensive lineman Brian Breesy, adding him to a front 7 led by Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Peyton Turner, and Pete Werner. So the Saints didn't need another pass rusher, but they used the number 40 pick on Notre Dame edge rusher Isaiah Foskey. He is a really solid player with 22 sacks over his final 2 seasons of college ball, but a team in win-now mode like New Orleans could have just used another offensive lineman or defensive back. They just don't need Foskey, especially when they have more than enough pass rushing firepower. New York Giants giving Bobby Okereke $40 million. In a very surprise move, the G-Man handed the ex-Colts linebacker a 4-year pact worth $40 million. Yeah, it's a lot of money for a merely average starter who doesn't get sacks and happens to be a giant liability in coverage. New York Jets drafting Will McDonald IV. Willie Mack was a small reach for the Jets at number 15 overall. Our real main issue with this draft pick is just the position itself. The Jets have more than enough depth on the defensive line and should have instead drafted on offensive linemen to help Aaron Rodgers. Philadelphia Eagles letting CJ Gardner-Johnson walk. We're admittedly nitpicking a bit here because, honestly, the Eagles, surprise, surprise, once again crushed the offseason. Gardner-Johnson was a gem of a pickup by Howie Roseman in a trade with New Orleans last year. It was surprising to see Philly let him go, considering he only got a 1-year deal worth $6.5 million guaranteed with the Lions. The Eagles really couldn't match or top that. Pittsburgh Steelers extending Larry Ogunjobi. Since 2018, Ogunjobi's highest PFF grade in a single season is 61.7, which he garnered with the Steelers last year. The veteran defensive tackle had just 1.5 sacks last year, well short of the career-high 7 he posted for Cincy in 2021. So, giving Ogunjobi a 3-year extension worth $28.75 million was definitely a bit of a head-scratcher. San Francisco 49ers drafting Cameron Latou. Nitpicking a bit here again because the 49ers had an excellent offseason. But that said, they already had a top 3 NFL tight end in George Kittle and more than enough offensive weaponry. So why use the number 101 pick on Alabama TE Cameron Latou? This guy only had 787 receiving yards in college. We're sure San Fran could have found a bit more of an impactful player with that pick, but hey, it's not too bad. Seattle Seahawks neglecting the guard position. The Seahawks released a veteran guard, Gabe Jackson, and curiously decided not to search for an upgrade. It arguably the best offseason of all 32 teams, but asking career backup Phil Haynes to fill Jackson's spot is definitely a strange move here. But other than that, no real complaints about their offseason. Tampa Bay Buccaneers trading Shaq Mason. The Bucs acquired the stalwart guard in a trade with New England for pennies last year. Mason held up his end of the bargain and allowed just 1 sack on 1,200 offensive snaps while committing just 2 penalties per PFF. This offseason, Tampa traded Mason and a 7th-rounder to Houston for a 6th-round pick. How does this make the Bucs a better team in the short term again? Tennessee Titans not trading Derrick Henry. The Titans are refusing to accept that their Super Bowl window is now closed. So instead of trading superstar Derrick Henry in his contract year while his value is high, they decide to keep him. Look, they're either going to lose him for nothing or get little value in return for him at the deadline. Or they'll make the mistake of extending him as he nears his 30th birthday. Feels like a lose-lose either way. Washington Commanders declining Chase Young's 5th-year option. Like the Titans with Henry, the Commanders have set themselves up for an unideal scenario. By declining the 5th-year option on Young's deal, they now risk losing him for nothing in 2024 free agency. Or they'll have to trade a player once viewed as a long-term franchise cornerstone piece. Or they'll have to pay him up when they could have picked up the option and had him under a bargain salary for 2024. But what do you think was the biggest mistake of the 2023 NFL offseason? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.